interviews up on prisonplanet.com. He talked about learning about how the big central banks ran things and how they control our economy, how they just try to destroy farmers and independence. And to learn that Willie Nelson's known about the New World Order for decades and decades and decades, and that my research has helped him learn even more. And that's how it works. We all learn from each other. But he really is a very intelligent, good-hearted person. You know, if somebody drinks a few glasses of wine, that's normal and cool. But Willie Nelson's been caught with marijuana, so the jokes on the message boards and in the news is, most people appreciate what he said. The majority of them are agreeing with him, but some of them just say, oh, ha, 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 smoke some more weed, Willie. Well, let's talk about some of the people that have gone public concerning 9/11 being an inside job. 2 months ago, the longest-serving Italian president since World War II, it's very volatile in Italy. Normally they serve about a year, served more than 7. Their former head of intelligence as well. Their president went public and said 9/11 was a complete inside job and that all the intelligence services knew day one, 6.5 years ago when it happened in New York City. Bill Christensen, CIA section chief over the most important section, Europe, went public on my radio show a year and a half ago now. It's in Terror Storm, saying that he knew 9/11 was an inside job. Bob Baer, the most highly decorated, most famous modern CIA field commander, went public last year, and I interviewed him, saying that all the evidence, quote, points towards an inside job. Bill Doyle, the head of the biggest victims family group, who lost his son Joey, 7,000 plus members, said that he believes it's an inside job, and the majority of the 9/11 victims' families believe it is an inside job. Hundreds of architects, hundreds of physicists. I mean, to try to get into all of the evidence, to try to cover all the proof would take hours. That's why I've made 3 films on the subject, written a book, published a book, done thousands of hours of radio with guests and experts. And Willie Nelson has spent 6 years since 9/11 took place researching it. What does Willie Nelson do in his spare time? He researches the New World Order. And then weak-minded people go to the Infowars.com message area, and here's the Infowars.com article written by Paul Watson, and there's like 100 comments in here, and about 80% of them are positive and have links to documents and video of the implosions and eyewitnesses, but about 20% or so repeat the same thing. Ha, 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 marijuana. Ha, 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 marijuana. It's so childlike. Willie Nelson has had such incredible courage to go public and say this and do this. This is a big deal. This is a huge deal. I have predicted that there'll be almost no mainstream media coverage because the big national organs are controlled. They choose who they want to attack. When the Japanese parliament last month went public, and they had a 30-minute televised transmission on national Japanese television where they brought forward the videos of the firefighters saying there were bombs. We were told to get back. They blew it up. All the same things we've shown you. They were showing these in the Japanese parliament. The Japanese president was there. The head of the second largest party was there putting on the presentation saying that 9/11 was an inside job. There was not one press report in the United States. That was in every major Japanese newspaper. Hundreds of papers. Tens of millions of people reading it. It was on national television in prime time. They have started a national investigation of it being an inside job. Did you see any of that in the United States papers or on television? When the Italian president, highly respected, goes public. Did you see it in the news? Guess what else the highly respected former Italian president said, who was the president up until the 90s? He admitted, he said, not only am I going to expose the fact that 9/11 was an inside job, he said, I'm going to admit that when I was the head of intelligence, that we allowed the United States to come into Italy and stage terror attacks to blame it on their political enemies. It's incredible. Did you see that on U.S. television? Did you know the former head of German intelligence went public, not just their defense secretary? Did you know that this was happening? Did you know the head of their lower house went public and said it was an inside job 1 month after it happened? Did you know that the number 3 man in the Blair government, Michael Meacher, went public and said all the evidence shows an inside job? I flew to London, England, to his home to interview him. He resigned out of the Blair government. You didn't hear about that unless you saw Terror Storm. You didn't hear about that unless you lived in England. It was in the newspapers there. There is a basic news blackout. Oh, they'll attack a great person like Charlie Sheen, focusing in on stuff he did 15 years ago. They'll focus on a Rosie O'Donnell because they believe she's a politically polarized figure. But they won't talk about it when Willie Nelson goes public. They won't talk about it when Andres von Bülow goes public. They won't talk about it when all of these incredibly important people and former CIA section chiefs go public. But it doesn't matter what the establishment does. Because now the mainstream media is losing huge percentages of their viewership and readership every year. The alternative media is exploding. I talk a lot about this, but it's important. Congress has an 11% approval rating for a year running now, the lowest it's ever been. Both parties are hated. They're not fooling us with the dog and pony show, the WWF wrestling. People now know they're all on the same team. Ann Coulter has endorsed Hillary Clinton for president. They're showing us now who they really are, and the truth is coming out. Now, in the case of Charlie Sheen, they tried to demonize him. They tried to make fun of him. They tried to lie about him. I know Charlie Sheen. He's an intelligent, dynamic, good person, very intelligent, photographic memory. I've spent 4 or 5 days at a time with him repeatedly. The guy hadn't lived the life of a playboy. He stays in his house and reads government documents literally 10 hours a day, drinking coffee and smoking Marlboro Reds. No drugs, no sex, no none of it. He's tuned into reality. And they tried to attack Charlie Sheen. And then when the polls nationally showed 84, 81, 85%, depending on the poll, agreed with Charlie Sheen, I talked to CNN execs who did 3 programs on it, 2 with me on there, and they said, we've never had ratings this high on Showbiz Tonight, but we were told from the higher-ups, I had the producer of Showbiz Tonight tell me, we were told, kill the story, stop covering it. I was driving in for my 3rd appearance on CNN to the satellite uplink in Westlake Hills. And the producer called and said, the story's been killed. We can't talk about it anymore. Drudge Report for 1 hour posted our Charlie Sheen story from prisonplanet.com when he went public. Drudge always leaves a story up for 6 to 10 hours. 1 hour, he took it down. That's because he has a bunch of people that work under him. Guess what happened today? Again. Roughly 2 years after Charlie Sheen went public. When Willie Nelson went public about 9/11 being an inside job, the danger of a dictatorship on my show today, and there's screenshots of it right here. 9/11 Blogger has it. PrisonPlanet.com has it. When you look at the screenshot, you can see right there our headline. Willie Nelson, Twin Towers were imploded on 9/11, developing. This was killed, but he also puts it in his archive. The headline is left in his archives, but the link goes back to the Drudge Report. Now, isn't that newsworthy, even if you don't think 9/11 is an inside job, isn't that newsworthy for the big gossip madam, and that's what he is, the gossip madam, the gossip pimp? Wouldn't that be newsworthy? Again, I could care less about being on the Drudge Report of them covering what we do. We already have our own audience. It's growing exponentially every day. You know, if I was just trying to get ratings and have people view what I'm doing, I'd enjoy the media continuing to lie and spin and twist, because that just drives more people to us. I wish this would all just stop. You're not going to keep us from getting this information.